Hi, I'm Ann from LearnHowToQuilt.com. In the last two videos in this series, you learned how to collect different fabrics to make different size spools. Today, I'll be giving you some tips on putting these spools together into a larger quilt. I'll also share some other ideas for using your spools. Hope you'll stay tuned. You can download this supply list and directions at LearnHowToQuilt.com or click the link below. This gives you the yardage required to make this quilt with 9 spools and sashing. You'll also find links to the first two videos in this series where you learned how to make individual spools. Along with those 9 spools, you'll need to cut 8 2.5 inch by 44-45 inch strips for sashing. Lay out your block in rows. Take a photo for reference. You might have noticed some of my blocks are a little smaller or larger than the block next to it. In some quilts, this might end up being a big problem, but in this quilt, there's an easy remedy. Here's 3 blocks in the middle row. The orange block is a tiny bit smaller than the other 2. If you cut a little from the top and bottom of the other 2 blocks, they'll all be the same size and fit nicely into the quilt. Place the smallest block on top of the other 2. Line up the spool caps where they meet the thread. It's marked in blue on this photo. Trim the excess from the larger blocks. This should be only maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch, which you won't even notice when all the blocks are sewn together. Check each row and trim if necessary. Today I'll be setting these spools in rows, but there's many other ways to arrange these. For example, you can turn every other one for a different look. The spools can also become part of a border if you decide to add a larger center block like this sewing machine. Or you can just do something goofy like putting giant thread on top of a machine. Whatever you decide, always take a photo first for reference. Now you're ready to add sashing. First, I like to add 6 pieces of sashing between the spools. Cut 6 10.5 by 2.5 inch sections. I like to stack 2 strips and then cut 3 sets of these. Lay them out between the spools. Stitch these in place using a 1/4 inch seam. Press to the spool. Cut 1 strip the length of the middle row. Use this measurement to cut 3 more strips. First sew 2 of the strips to the center row, then add 2 strips on the outside edges. Some of your rows may be longer or shorter than the middle row, so you might have to ease in these strips. This will help keep your quilt squared up. You can find more details about easing in the links below. Press to the sashing. Lay out your rows. Before sewing all the sections together, you'll want to make some marks on the sashing so the spool caps line up. Use the spools in the center row as the model, and then make a registration mark in the seam. Line that mark up with the spool cap when pinning. Now you're ready to add the top and bottom. Take a strip and measure through the horizontal center. Cut another strip the same size and then attach to the top and bottom. Ease if needed. I chose not to add a border, but you might like to make this a little bit larger. I'm looking for more selvages with little pictures on them to add to these spools before I quilt this. I think if I make this up again in I Spy Fabrics, I'll make all the blocks with angled strips and use more selvages. Which blocks do you like best? This spool block is great for beginner, but you don't have to make a quilt to try one out. You can add a border to show off your spool. Just cut strips the width of your spool and attach them on either end, and then cut strips the length of your spool. Sew a few of these together for a cute little wall hanging that you can put in your sewing room or give as a gift to a friend. Use orphan blocks or new blocks and add some strips for the top and bottom caps. Add borders and you've got a small wall hanging to use in your sewing room. Make your spools different sizes and display them either vertically or horizontally. I added my borders, batting and backing, and a little flange here, and I can use this to cover up my sewing machine attachments. These also make fun little bags for your sewing supplies. I wish I would have thought a little bit more about it by putting a white border around this spool, but this can be a little container for your rotary cutter or scissors. And here I've decided to applique this spool on the front of a little zipper bag that I'm making. You might also try inserting small spools into these photo frame cards and send a nice hello to a friend. Hope you have fun with this project. Let us know how your spool turns out. Thank you for watching today. If you have any questions and/or concerns, please email me at ann@learnhowtoquilt.com or post in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Over the next few months, I'll be adding some new projects for beginners. On the second Thursday of the month, you'll get a video for a table runner that features one or more beginner skills. On the fourth Thursday of the month, I'll be hosting a pattern review for beginners. I've found some fun patterns, like this elephant quilt pattern, that I think you'll like. In the weeks between, I'll be giving instructions and free patterns for more easy quilts and small projects. Hope you'll join us.